Hi, I'm Shakina Tawahene, Deputy Editor of Mortgage Solutions. Today, I'll be joined by Nomo to discuss the property investment opportunities which can be seen coming from the Gulf Cooperation Council region. From Nomo, we have Chris Monaghan, B2B Marketing Lead, and Maleesa Mariym, Business Development Manager. Thank you both for being with us. At the end of the presentation, there will be a chance to ask some questions, so please do so using the box on your screen. And now I'll hand over to Chris and Maleesa. Thank you.
A very good and very warm afternoon from myself and Maleesa. We're in the very warm area of Canary Wharf today, and we're really pleased to be here to walk you through what GCC residents are and how they access the UK property market. So yeah, my name's Chris Monaghan. I head up the B2B marketing function at Nomo Bank, and my esteemed colleague Maleesa.
Hi everybody, good afternoon.
Yeah, thanks, thank you. So what we're going to cover today is the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC. What is it, and why do those residents invest in property in the UK? If you go back up, sorry. We'll also look at some Rightmove data and land registry data. So what's the size of the market and why brokers should engage with it? We'll go through a few of the broker experiences that we've had. So we've got lots of our brokers already onboarded with us. And we'll also try and show you a couple of customer types. You get a flavour for what do they look like and how do they access the market. And then we'll finish off with a bit of our mortgage criteria and what we think the future outlook is. And then Shakina said we'll have a Q&A at the end. So Gulf Cooperation Council countries, bit of a mouthful. You'll see the acronym GCC used a lot. It's basically the Gulf states. So as on screen, it's Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, which includes Dubai and Oman. So touching on why the UK. So, I mean, I guess a lot of these are the same for UK residents, right? A lot of what we do is buy-to-let business. So there's a good deal of investment into property in the UK. And GCC residents do that to diversify their wealth quite often. But there are other triggers. So obviously it's a very family-orientated place, the GCC, all of the countries are. And so we see quite a lot of families sending their sons and their daughters to come and study in the UK. And when they do so, they quite often use that as an opportunity to invest in the real estate market. So potentially instead of going into student accommodation, they'll use that to find a property that their son or daughter can live in while they're studying. And then they've got an asset, obviously, in the UK afterwards. And that sort of goes the same with work placements as well. So post-degree, you know, a lot of those guys that are qualified will come back to the UK to live and to work, maybe for a short period of time. But again, it provides them with access to investing into the UK market. Career changes is an interesting one because actually, although we say GCC residents, we don't just mean GCC nationals. So I guess what I mean by that, we'll probably all know friends or family that have perhaps emigrated to Dubai or have gone to work in Dubai for 5 or 6 years. It's a very multicultural society. And of course, what happens then is quite often people get a career change and want to come back to the UK. And, you know, that happens quite often. Looking at the industries that happens in, so the oil and gas, there's a lot of affinity, certainly between Scotland, and we'll come on to that in a minute, Scotland and the GCC countries, but also education and health. And other industries where people will move between GCC nations and back to the UK. Another big mover is second homes. So we'll touch on this. It's a bit ironic today to talk about this really, but quite often people who live in the Gulf, they're probably experiencing 40, 45, 50 degrees. And so quite often they'll come to Europe in the summer to cool down, which actually with the UK climate is normally a good thing to do, but actually today is a bit bit ironic that they'd probably be as warm as they would be back in the GCC. So they quite often buy second homes to come and summer into Europe and access the rest of Europe. And probably the UK is sort of the leading country in the European countries to do that. Even after Brexit, it's still really, really popular for that to happen. And then the last one we talk about is the expats. We get a lot of expat business. I mentioned it earlier about people who've gone out and have worked in Dubai. And if they're doing well, they might then think about actually having a foothold back in the UK. So that might look like a second home, or it might be a buy-to-let property. So just going into a bit of the numbers and the science. So we've done some work with Rightmove. Hopefully you're all aware of Rightmove, the big property portal. And they're able to see at the top of their funnel what people are searching for, obviously what houses, but also where from. And so we did some work with them to understand people from the GCC countries, how much do they search in the UK and where do they search. Probably the standout thing is that GCC countries and residents of those countries, they represent 11% of all of the international searches into the UK via Rightmove. So that's a big number. It's a massive overrepresentation. The GCC population is like 0.7 of the world population. So you can see that there's a definite overrepresentation in those guys living in the GCC countries who are interested in the UK market. Where do they search? So if we look at the GCC as a whole, unsurprisingly, London comes out with the heaviest searches. There's a lot of affinity to London. It's obviously a big property market, full stop. Scotland is second, which might be interesting to some of the guys on the call. The Northwest is prevalent as well. And then it sort of tails off across the whole of the UK. I think probably the couple of things to take here is that it's quite wide. So don't just think London, think all of the regions across the UK and across England and Wales. And also there'll be different reasons for those pockets of searches, which we'll come on to now. So I'm just going to narrow the focus on UAE residents, so people who live in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai and in that part of the GCC. The reason why I'm focusing on that is that makes up about 50% of the market. So we get lots of UAE residents helping to purchase property through Nomo Bank. And actually, when we look at those specifically, the search areas are far more widespread across the UK, with Scotland actually being the largest area for searches. So there's a couple of things around that. I think obviously Glasgow and Edinburgh are big university cities that we touched on earlier, but there's also massive affinity between the oil and gas industries within Scotland and in the GCC. So those two things we feel like link up really well. London and the Southeast, that accounts for 28% together. And that's very much location driven. There'll be a big prevalence. There'll be some buy-to-let in that, but there'll also be some second home purchase. But then we've seen a lot of growth in the Northwest, particularly Manchester. That continues to develop really well and has been driven a lot by, again, buy-to-let yield, but also the university cities, so Liverpool and Manchester, to name a couple. There's a big affinity from there, and there's a big drive to own property in that area as well. And I guess just sort of flipping back into the buy-to-let area, we're preaching to the converted here. A lot of the mortgage brokers on this call will understand this, but you can see, for example, the rental yields across the different regions that Rightmove covers. The Northeast actually comes out with the highest yield over the last 12 months. Scotland is quite high. London is probably lower down, but of course the property values there are much higher. So actually the output is pretty significant to landlords in that area. Just going to finish off my sort of two penneth really on our database. So 50% of our property finance cases are from UAE, which I touched on earlier. But actually, if we look at the nationalities within that part of our database, it's really widespread. So lots of Emirati, so people who are local to UAE, but lots of Brits, so expats, people from India, Pakistan, North Africa. So it's a really diverse community. Whereas actually, if we looked at our book from Kuwait as an example, that's pretty much all Kuwaiti nationals. I guess the relevance for the broker community is that we know this market really, really well, and we can help and handhold brokers when you come across these opportunities, because culturally there are some differences, right? So probably the message is, don't confuse residency with nationality from our criteria point of view. We see a real nice diverse amount of nationalities into our property book. Just going to finish off with just a little view on the refinance market as well. So it's obviously a specialised market, right? So, and whilst I've got up here the 2-year fixed rate average for Bank of England data over the last 5 years or so, obviously specialist lending tends to be a little bit higher than the average. But what you can see is, I think if you look at the 2023, which we've highlighted, the 2023 window, those 2-year fixed are obviously dropping off onto SPVs, but they're at the time you're probably looking at a rate that was 6.5%, 7%. We've got numbers in the 4s now, and there's an opportunity from a refinance point of view for brokers. There's a bit of out of sight, out of mind. So if it's somebody who lives in Dubai or UAE and they've got a property in the UK, it might be actually that they've sort of just parked that mortgage. But there's definitely opportunities to help customers and put them back on a really good rate, given the rate changes over the last sort of 6-7 months that we've seen from a BOE point of view. I'm going to hand over to Maleesa now, to talk you through the broker piece and also a bit about customer type.
Thank you very much, Chris, for that amazing market research about the countries that we cater to and how Nomo works and helps the clients, and especially the brokers, in trying to find a suitable product for your client. So over here on the map, so we have the map of UK, and here gives some examples of some of the clients that we have actually had applications for, and the clients that we cover. So first client that will come up to is, we have a Qatar national client who's purchasing a new development in Manchester. Rough property value, obviously we're getting a lot of new builds around Manchester, Birmingham. There's a few, I'm not sure if there's a few upcoming in Leicester, or maybe so, but the main developments or applications that we are seeing is particularly in Manchester and Birmingham. So he's probably looking to purchase a property around 308,000, looking for a finance of 129. I will go through via USPs and what we cover, but these are just case example. So the Qatari national is a buy-to-let purchase. Second one, and we offer a variety of products. So we cater to residential, buy-to-lets, SPVs. SPVs is actually becoming a really popular buy-to-let product that we are offering. So we have over here Mr. ZE, who's bought a development in Birmingham. He's also a British expat who's currently living in Saudi, who's looking to buy a property purchase with Nomo. Few of the things that we have, which Chris kindly covered, is the refinances. So where he's mentioned about the refinances, now a few questions that I do get from some of my brokers is, refinances mean, so either you have a property that you're looking to refinance from a different lender. It's simply, so we can either do refinances within Nomo or refinance it from a different lender. Normally brokers get confused. Lisa, do you accept a refinance from Barclays? Yes, of course we can. So she's purchased a property in Salford. Now, in terms of the Miss N, who's looking to purchase a property, this is in fact a residential case. Now we have a proposition called joint borrower sole proprietor. So this is acts, and you may call it as a guarantor case. So the example that Chris gave right at the beginning for residentials is Mrs. N's daughter is coming to study here for university, and instead of placing her in a student accommodation, she wants to buy a property for her child so she can stay while she's studying here in UK. And of course, once she finishes studying, they can also use it as like a holiday home whenever they come to the UK and visit and live. So these are the few customer examples that we have. Of course, we have a lot more. So please just ensure that where Chris did emphasize is not much of the nationality. is where the client is residing and working in. That makes sure as long as they're GCC residents and they can provide a proof of income from GCC, then we are more than happy to accept applications. So as a BDM, okay, some of the broker experiences that we have. So I will quickly touch upon the broker experience. So these are two examples that we have from our brokers. When we ask them about Nomo and what you like about Nomo, and this is what they have said. What I value most about Nomo is super useful dealing with international clients. They service for UK bank accounts for international clients. I will touch upon that on the USPs that we have. Another one of our brokers said, one of the standout features in the ability to cater to non-resident buyers who have a complex income structure and unique profiles. Now, what we mean by that is we understand their culture. So a lot of expats, a lot of foreign nationals, what they do get is they do receive a lot of allowances on top of their generic pay. So employed applicants, what they would receive is they would receive housing allowance, they would educational allowance, transport allowance. So what we do is we use the full facility of the allowances to add on to their normal basic salary, which helps them boost up their income. If it's for residential, then we provide 4.5 times the annual income, which does help them in terms of income affordability, as well as the buy-to-let. The buy-to-let affordability. Now, in terms of the broker experience, what we do have is we have a broker portal. So once you onboard with us and you register, you will get access to a broker portal. You can use that to submit your application, get updates on the stages that your application is at. And one other thing that I would like to highlight is we have partnered up with OMS, which we are looking forward to. Hopefully this will launch in July for our brokers. So we are now shifting. So we will be shifting our broker portal to OMS, which I'm also gladly looking forward to help my brokers out to ease out the process. Apologies. What we do have is, and in order to provide further support to the team and for yourself, is a lot of GCC residents. Yes, they can fully speak and understand English, but sometimes there's some points that they may need to speak in Arabic, or they may need help. Some of the documents, they may require Arabic translations. Now that's where we also come in and provide support. So we have Arabic speakers in the team. So I literally had a case today morning where the client was like, Maleesa, this is my bank statement. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this in English. So I hope you have an Arabic speaker in your team that can help translate that. I'm like, Mr. Client, great, no problem. Leave that with me and we will sort it out. So yes, we do have Arabic speakers in the team because obviously we understand the language, and we also have Arabic speakers in our customer services team. So if they need any help, they can provide the support if needed. We understand their language, we understand their culture, so we can fully support them. Now, the next point that I will quickly touch upon is our USPs, our criteria, and what our outlook is. Just before I quickly touch up on the USPs, so just like to cover on what products that we offer. So I already talked about the residential, so we offer residential products. We accept buy-to-lets. This is buy-to-lets under personal name, new purchases or refinances. We also do buy-to-lets under limited company, so SPVs. And lastly, the one that I covered is about guarantors, so residential guarantor applications. Now, a bit about Nomo, which, apologies, we haven't touched in the beginning. So we are a trading name of Bank of London and Middle East, and we are authorized and regulated in the UK. We are a subsidiary of BLME, which is Bank of London and Middle East, and we are also, our parent company is BBN Bank, which is the largest bank in Kuwait. Where we come into play is where in the 21st century, we are moving through this whole digital technological aspect, and this is where we also provide more efficiency to your clients. So we are a first digital approach bank who looks after the property finance. In terms of what that means is basically when it comes to onboarding, and I'll touch a bit upon that. What happens is once you submit an application for your client, all the clients are required to hold a current account with Nomo. Now we process this as a part of our KYC. So what happens is once you submit an application, and one thing that I would like to point out is, as a foreign national, um, hopefully more maybe as an expat, but as a foreign national, what happens is, let's say you go to Barclays, it will be so difficult for you to open an account just because you don't have any UK credit footprint. They would want loads of proof of address, loads of bank statement, loads of documents just to ensure that, okay, just to onboard you as a client. Now, this is where we come in and make it easier. So we have technologies in place that makes it easier. So what we do is, in terms of proof of address, now we can go to our intermediary's website, get a list of proof of address, and we make it very simple for the client. So all the client will need to do is upload their passport, do a bit of selfie check just to ensure that it's them. Submit your proof of address. Now you or your broker can submit that, and that's KYC done. Just to also highlight, with like other banks, sometimes it also takes weeks to open an account with them. Now, for us, because we have got that digital aspect and we understand their culture, where they're coming from, we literally do it within a few days, if not a few hours, depending on how fast the client can work. So as I was saying, that the client does not require a UK credit footprint, so which means the client never has to live here, work here, ever visit here to have a property finance with us. As long as they found a property suitable to them, they like the property, and they fit within our criteria, we are happy to accept it. So as for the resident residentials, what you would find is now all of our product rates mirror each other. So the product rates that you will get for the residential is the same for buy-to-lets, and it's the same for SPVs, which is really brilliant. It means that you don't have to kind of figure out in your head, oh, this is for the resis, this is for the buy-to-lets. It mirrors each other. We accept first-time landlords, first-time buyers, which is really great. Like I said, you don't even have to have a UK credit footprint, which is also a beneficial. I know some lenders, they say, no, you need to have a buy-to-let property here in UK to have like another buy-to-let with us. That's not the question. That's not the case with us. Our maximum FTV is 75%. So like I mentioned, the residential and buy-to-let products, they mirror each other. Minimum property value is 150,000 out of London and 350,000 inner London, and our minimum finance is 100,000, and we can go up to 2.5. Now, I shouldn't be saying this, but hopefully we can go up to, if you do have a case for a client that goes above 2.5, don't make that deter you away. So on our intermediaries website, you will find a list of our BDMs. Feel free to pick up with any of the BDMs. If you do have a case, just email us, Maleesa. We have a case for a Qatari national who's looking to buy a 3 million property, let's say in London, and no, that doesn't make sense, sorry, a 5 million property in London, and they're looking for a 3 mil finance. Can you cater to this? What are the rates that can you give to the client? Please send this to us, and we will work through it with you. It's not like we're going to say, sorry, our cap is at 2.5, we can't do anything. As long as it's below 5%, 5 mil, please feel free to refer to any of the BDMs, and we will try and assist you. One of the other USPs, just to quickly run through, I will go through with you, is we do offer top slicing. So as well as doing self-servicing buy-to-lets, we offer top slicing, like I said, again, with the allowance that the client receives. I think if the rental income doesn't meet, now I know a lot of new developments, what happens is they're upsold, and the rental in the market, we all know the value is always values it less. So if the rental does come down valued, we can use their income to basically get the finance to up to the maximum 75% that they want. Next for me is just to touch really quickly upon the brief packaging requirements. So we accept employed applicants, self-employed applicants. We literally, if you go again to our packaging checklist on our website, everything's there. We are a normal bank. We don't ask for anything exceptional. So for employed applicants, 3 months of payslip, 3 months of bank statement, like literally just the generic. We look at the income, we look at the expenditure. For self-employed applicants, we require 3 years of accounts and 3 years of accounts, as well as an accounting certificate, just to provide supporting documents of the accounts that they have. As I said, we don't ask for, like we say, oh, because Nomo is specialist, just asking for the GCC, we would require 1 years of bank statement. They make it so difficult. No, we are here to support you. We want to make it as easy. We understand, like I said, we understand their culture, and we are a normal bank. Let's just put it as that. So my next slide is just quickly to cover for our rates. Now we have a really good product offering, and our rate starts from 4.99 and it goes up to maximum 5.49%. Like I said, the residentials and the buy-to-lets, they mirror each other. The only thing with the residentials I will just highlight out to you is the application fee. So the application fee for the residentials is 1499 standard. And for the buy-to-lets, if your client is looking for a 2 years fixed, our application fee is 0.5 for the 2 years. And for the 5 years is 1%. That is the only minimum differences that you have. And including the SPVs, like I said, again, it literally mirrors each other. One quickly product that I would love to highlight, and I love talking about this, is our refinance campaign. Now we have a really good product offering where we offering no application fee. So no 1% if it's a buy-to-let 5 years, or any residential application fee. So no application fee. Our valuation with us, whether it's a residential buy-to-let or limited company buy-to-let, is always free. So you're getting added bonus on top, no valuation fee. We also normally charge £1,000 towards normal solicitor cost. Now this is our solicitor cost that we charge for new purchases. Now for the refinances, we're also taking that out. So literally the only kind of cost that your client will have is your own broker fee cost and the client's own solicitor cost. And I always, whenever my brokers hear about this, they're like, Maleesa, how do you do that? Well, not me personally, but the bank. So yes, we have got a really good offering on that. Another thing just to highlight on top of the refinance is if we do look at our rates, which is at the top. So for the 2 years, 60% is actually 5.25. And for the 2 years, 75% is 5.49. We know the lower the FTV, you will get a better rate. So if you look at on the refinances, they're actually benefiting for the 60% rate, which is a lot lower. So that's an added bonus that for the refinance clients, they do get effective and a lower rate. Now, in terms of our broker commission and what we pay out is we pay our standard fee of 0.55%. We do have broker initiatives, and hopefully Chris can have more of them coming soon. But yeah, we'll keep you updated. So yeah, our broker's commission rate, what we pay out as a profit, is 0.55. And our standard variable rate at the moment, once a client comes off their fixed product, is 7.5. I think that will be the end for myself. So what we will do is we will move up to the Q&As, and we'll take any further questions. Yeah.
Thank you both, and I hope everyone watching found that very insightful and gained something from it. So like you said, we will now move on to the questions, and just a reminder to anyone watching that you can still submit them during this portion. So I will start off with the barriers that some brokers might come across when it comes to advising clients from the GCC region, and what a lender like Nomo can do to help, because if they are quite new to this area, how can they overcome any challenges that they might face with that?
Yep, so I'll cover that question. In terms of barriers, so one of the things that I did pick up on the presentation is the language. Like I said, we do have Arabic speakers in the team. So yes, we understand that some of either the documents that may need translating, or some of the things in our, let's say, not offer letters, let's assume offer letter that the client may not understand. We have Arabic speakers that can help the client out in terms of translating and expanding on that to them to explain it better, obviously in the Arabic language, to help them understand. It's obviously sometimes you just need that human interaction, but also if someone can speak your language, it feels so much more nicer, and it gives you that comfort that okay, the bank understands what my questions are, what my queries or my hesitation is, and if we are able to accommodate to that, then great. Another thing that I also covered is the UK credit footprint. Now, few other lenders, so certain lenders, they basically may not understand the culture of the client, or let's just say I said where the client doesn't have a buy-to-let property in the UK, they say apologies, that because you don't have a buy-to-let here in UK, we can't accommodate to you, so they don't accept first-time landlords. We are okay with it. Like I said, you don't never have to live here with us, visit here, ever stay here. You just need to find a property that's suitable to you to have a finance with us. And lastly, the main big thing that I actually forgot to cover in my presentation is we are a Sharia compliant bank. Now, just to quickly touch a base on that, if you don't mind, Chris. So in UK, in Sharia principle, the reason, so interest is forbidden in Islam. Okay. Now, the way, so religion, I think, plays a big part in our bank and how it caters to the client, especially to the GCC clients. Now, they're an Islamic country that has certain principles in the way that they use to finance their own products, whether they have a resident, whether they have their property finance over there in their own resident country, or they're doing finances for, let's say, car finance, etc. So religion, yes, it does play a big part in having a property finance. It gives us that comfort that it is a Sharia compliant bank. The way our Sharia is structured is closely, it mirrors basically the conventional bank. So what happens with us is at the end of completion, the client will own the property, so they will be on the title of the deeds, and we simply take a charge on the property, just similar to a conventional bank. Now, the regular kind of the market, the Sharia principle, the UK market follows is a different Islamic principle, which I won't cover, but hopefully some of the brokers may understand is the client actually doesn't own the property. This is the other lender, Sharia lenders, by the way. The client doesn't own the property. Once they have fully fledged paid the finance off with the bank, that's when they transfer the title of the deeds. But that's not with us. For us, the client simply goes on the title of the deeds, and we take a charge on the property. So we try and basically we understand that the clients do want a Sharia property finance, and the closest thing that we could get is our model that we work with, which is commodity murabaha model. And yes, as well as having the Islamic Sharia concept, what I do get a feedback from a lot of brokers is, Maleesa, your rates are great. Love hearing that from brokers. Yes, as long as we're having a faith in the aspect of it, rates also we understand plays a role just because of the market. I mean, no one wants to pay a high rate. Yes, for buy-to-lets, we want to invest. We want our rental. We want to charge more rental income to the tenants, but we do not want to pay a higher rate to the bank. So no, we are offering a very good competitive rates.
Thank you. And Chris, you have anything to add to that?
I think probably the only thing I would add is our customers aren't exclusively of Muslim faith at all. I think there's a real mix. I think, as Maleesa touched on, rate drives a lot of your decision making in your property finance and mortgage that you take. And so for some of our customers, being a Sharia compliant bank is like really, really important. And actually for other customers, it's much more about the rate, the service, and being able to work with brokers.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And another question that we do have, I mean, I guess some of these brokers would be quite new to the market. So they're asking, how can we contact GCC clients or tap into that market? Are there any details you can share, or maybe any tips of how to reach out to those clients?
Yeah, I think sourcing customers generally is about having a good name in the market and being reputable. And this is why mortgage brokers are so important to every lender, I think, is that they can offer a service to customers that the sort of the big banks potentially can't. Just a couple of stats, like 90% of all of our business is broker led. So it's where we thrive. And I guess what I want to try and accentuate is that it's an accessible market. Brokers can serve GCC customers. They shouldn't be put off by the fact that perhaps that English isn't their first language, that they haven't got a UK credit footprint. Banks like Nomo solve those problems for brokers. the market's there, and the interest from GCC residents is also UK wide. So if you look at all the Rightmove data, I suppose in trying to find those opportunities, I think quite often, a lot of property purchases driven first off by the property. So if you're in an area where there's good new homes development, and you can access leads from those guys, you are almost undoubtedly going to trip over international investors, and of which the GCC residents account for about 14% of that. So you're going to have these opportunities. I think beyond that, if you specialize in buy-to-lets or SPVs, again, it's a thriving investor market as well. So I think to be seen to be open for business from GCC customers will attract some of them. And then the final point, I think, is probably this Dubai piece. So I would challenge that most people on this call know somebody, a friend or a family member, who's gone to Dubai and has gone to work and has gone to spend 5-6 years out there. And I think using those networks to try and access that market is a really good tool. So using your personality and using your personal connections to build a proposition that's attractive for people out in the Middle East, I think is a really good way forward of accessing the market too.
Yeah, of course. And another question we had, because you did mention that your finance is Sharia compliant, and a question we have is, as a DA firm, do advisors need to add Sharia permissions from the FCA to work with or pass business over to you?
That's a great question. That's a very good question, very timely question. Maleesa, take that one, I think.
No, you did. I think you did cover that yesterday. Yes. So as a DA firm, no, you don't. Oh, just as a DA firm. So yes, where we're talking about the commodity murabahah model, no, you do not need. So certain lenders over here in UK and then the other Sharia principle that they follow, they need a specific HPP permission. With us, as long as you have a regulated mortgage permission, which is you basically need that even to submit other residential applications to the conventional lenders. So every DA firm, I believe, will have majority DA firm, will have RMC permission. So as long as you have that RMC permission, once you get your broker portal access, you can submit residential application, you can do the advice yourself. However, for those firms that I would also like to pick out is those firms that does not have RMC permission, we have in-house advisors. So with the buy-to-lets, because they're unregulated, so you can submit them through the broker portal yourself. There's no restrictions on them. With the residential, if your firm doesn't have RMC permission, we have in-house advisors. So what we will do is we will treat your case as an introducer basis. What that means is you basically send us a case summary saying, Maleesa, this is the client that's looking for a residential application. We'll be like, great. This is our advisor who will take your client through the advice. Once the application has been submitted, we will CC you in the comms, so any request of documents. We will let you know. We will work through the client ourselves. Now, this makes the work easier for you. And then what you will do is you will still get your profit at the end. So it's all great there. We have all that sorted. We are taking care of you.
There's a big thing, Shakina, I think, because there are perceived barriers, I think, and that's one of them. Again, extending your permissions, and if you're unsure, so maybe you might see 5-6 cases of these a year, so you perhaps don't want to invest all that time. I think the referral process as an introducer is massive for us and for brokers, and as Maleesa said, you still attract the prop fee from it. So we're all about making access to GCC customers as easy as possible, and that's another key part of that.
Of course, thank you. And Chris, earlier in the presentation, you mentioned, some of the trends that are driving investment from the GCC region. And are there any signs that this market has potential to grow? And what would you sort of say might be behind that?
100%. Yeah, I think so. There was a study by Hamptons just earlier in the year. So 14% now of all international purchases into the UK are from GCC residents. And there's quite a few factors, I think, that are conducive for that to continue to grow. I mean, the first thing is the European purchases have dropped off since Brexit. So they're the big prime driver of international purchases into the UK, but that's been dripping off ever since Brexit. I think obviously the reduced interest rates here have been a factor. Interest and profit rates have been a factor in the UK and have made it more attractive for Gulf investors. And then I think the other part I mentioned is the Gulf economy and is doing really well. It's growing from strength to strength. And I think what that means is that outward investment becomes more palatable for people who are based in the GCC. So they might want to diversify their investment portfolios. And I'd say the UK is a prime destination for that. It's seen as I mean, we moan about it. We moan about the weather, don't we, and stuff like that. But it's seen as a pretty stable market from a GCC point of view. And there's strong cultural bonds, not just with Dubai, but with Qatar and Kuwait. There's a lot of long-standing cultural and historic bonds between the GCC nations and the UK, and that stands the UK in really good stead to see some of that growth as well.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, kind of off the back of that, I mean, Maleesa, where would you say that brokers can go to get an insight into where demand might be coming from in the future? What should they keep aware of? What trends should they look out for to sort of have an eye on this?
Apologies, bear with me.
We just had a bit of a technical glitch, so it might be worth just repeating the question, Shakina.
Yeah,
Sorry.
of course. Yeah, so I was just sort of following on from what you said. What sources can brokers lean on to maybe have a forward-looking view about what trends are coming up and maybe an insight into where demand might be coming from? I'll put that to Maleesa.
Sure, no worries. A lot of trends, a lot of applications that we're seeing is, as I mentioned, the limited company buy-to-lets. So clients, we know that the limited company buy-to-lets have its own kind of advantages of saving on taxes. I mean, we do not want to pay taxes as much as it's benefiting us. We want to stay away from taxes. So no, we are seeing a lot of limited company buy-to-lets application. We're also seeing a lot of where I talked about the guarantor case. We're seeing a lot of applications of those other residentials or even as a buy-to-lets. Now, one thing I think failed to mention or didn't cover is our parents are always, we are all blessed to have parents, right? So for them, it's basically how can my daughter or my child get on the property ladder? And when you go overseas, one of the things, I mean, the reason expats, they move over there to work there is just basically of the tax reasons, right? Because they're obviously saving on all that funds that we pay towards taxes, but also they're receiving allowances on top, which means they've got additional funds. And like Chris mentioned, UK property investment, it always goes up. Property investment here in UK is such a stable market, it never goes down, barely goes down unless we have another financial crisis, which we hope not. But yeah, how can my child go up to the property ladder, or how I can expand my investment? So one thing hopefully I can say this, Chris, is two things that we're covering is where we showed the area of the market or the region that we're covering, which is actually England and Wales at the moment. We're also looking to property purchases towards Scotland. So hopefully that product should be coming in the next few months in Q3. But also what we are doing is we're also looking into portfolio landlords. So at the moment we are covering, we're accepting applications for clients who can purchase up to 3 applications. But we also understand, like I said, as UK is a stable market, what they do want to do is they want to expand. Now, what we're also trying to launch is portfolio landlords. So it means that, hey, listen, if either, let's say, if you want to, you already have 4 in your portfolio and you want to add 2 more with Nomo, great. Hopefully we can look into that proposition for the next 2 months. SPV, buy-to-lets, guarantors is kind of like our main, as well as the residential, using as a second holiday home. That's kind of the main trends that we are seeing here in Nomo.
I think also, Shakina, just around trying to keep track on that and get insight into the potential demand from GCC, that probably the first thing to do is to give us a follow. So we release a couple of market views, so Property Pulse and our annual market review with Rightmove that comes out sort of August, September every year, and that'll show what we shared today, where people are searching, and that gives you good insight into how big the market is and where it's growing. Give us a follow on LinkedIn or reach out to Maleesa or myself, and we can share all of the information that we have.
Of course, thank you very much. And that is, I'm afraid, all we have time for. And there are some other questions, but to those people who have asked questions that haven't been answered, the team can get back to you after this event and answer you directly. So thank you very much, Chris and Maleesa, for that insight. And I hope everyone watching did find it educational, engage something from it, and hopefully have their eyes open to a new market they could probably tap into. So thank you very much. And thank you to everyone watching as well.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye.